All right, good evening, everybody. It is Friday night. Y'all. Look, I got a lot going on here. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm playing around with some new technology. So I'm trying to get it all worked out here. So y'all give me just a moment. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Like I said, I have not. I gotta get this right here. Okay, I got some new software. They just updated our streaming software, and it's a little different. Looks a little different than it used to. So I'm just trying to get used to it. But definitely, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, y'all, I'm looking to the right because I got cameras everywhere. Somebody move the camera. There we go. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. It is always a pleasure to have all of our streaming audience joining us. When we're talking about the things that are affecting the state of Mississippi as well as our district, haven't done one of these in quite some time, been super, super busy. So I'm very sorry, but I saw the need to get on here and talk to y'all. I know a lot of people, it's Friday night, got other stuff to do. Everybody don't have a boring life like I do. So people actually have a life where they can be out doing stuff. But hey, to me, when the older you get, you value truly being at home. I got a lot coming up next week, so I'm getting got some travel and stuff coming up next week. So I'm trying to get some rest this weekend so that I will be definitely prepared for that. But I hope that everybody's having a great weekend. I hope that life is great and grand for everybody. And we just here just to unpack, a few things, that we have going on. As y'all know, I pride myself in reliable representation and keeping y'all abreast and up to date as to things that are going on. And so we're just going to start. Let's just rip the band-aid off real quick, and we're going to start with the federal government, which is something I don't really talk much about on the federal level, but I feel the need and I feel actually compelled to talk about what's going on the federal level because a lot of people are not really sure or aware of the things that are going on. People just basically know that the government is back open again. They don't know the details surrounding it, like what the provisions are, what's going to happen, and how we got to where we are. And so I'm not going to unpack all of that unless you have questions. You got questions while we're talking, of course, feel free to weigh in and drop your questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But I do want to talk about the continuing resolution that was passed in DC, which ultimately is going to reopen our government. Well, it has reopened the government because the government has reopened. This was the longest shutdown in history. It was about 41 days. We've never had a shutdown that long. But in this bill and in this legislation, there are a few things that were not really talked about, or they were spoken of, but not really doubled down on per se. They weren't really the focus parts of the bill. The main focuses of the bill, of course, were getting our federal employees paid. Another one was making sure that our families that receive SNAP benefits would ultimately continue. And one thing that we as a Democratic Party set pretty firm on was the ACA, which is the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And let me just say the enhanced ones, because the enhanced ones were the ones that were set to expire, which are the ones that came during the COVID pandemic. And that really is what we really stood tall and firm on. Unfortunately, we didn't get. But one thing that was in here that a lot of people did not realize was hemp product regulations. So as you know, hemp, THC, medical marijuana, whatever it is that you want to call it, that's legalized. So what happened is that this legislation, it adds a provision that really clarifies what the definition of hemp is. So it's virtually banning all hemp-derived products containing THC. Well, so I know one of these are like Delta 8 and Delta 9 products, which have been widely used since 2018. So there's a 1-year grace period. So this is going to be in 2026 is when this will take effect. Another thing that's in this bill is it's a DOJ FBI notification. So what this says is that any time the Department of Justice and the FBI want to investigate a lawmaker or a lawmaker is under investigation, they have to notify the Senate of the investigation. And so this came from a DOJ investigation in 2020 It related to the 2020 election when I know the Speaker Mike Johnson, he criticized some things and talked about possible conflicts of interest and overreach. It's the second thing that's in it. Another thing is this bill is going to add $200 million for enhanced security for members of Congress, so members of the House and the Senate. This is going to give them $200 million additional dollars. Capitol Police, so also our Supreme Court justices are also getting some enhanced security. Now, one thing about this is it did add full funding for select agencies for a full year. So most agencies receive short-term extensions until January 2026. However, the USDA, which also will ultimately fund SNAP, with the legislative branch. So we're talking about, when we talk about who makes the laws, so Congress and the Senate, and military construction, as well as veteran affairs, are going to receive a full year of funding. And so they will get uh-oh, y'all, what is going on? Daryl Porter, get off my phone, man. If you want to just get off my phone, I'll deal with you in a minute. But those agencies will receive a full year of funding, which I'm happy, that they will be when we're talking about. I don't really care about the legislative branch receiving full funding as more so that I do the Department of Veteran Affairs and the USDA with our SNAP benefits. And so SNAP and WIC will receive a full year of funding no matter what happens in January. And the way that I see that is we as a government should not be allowed to use our taxpayers as pawns, or when we're talking about negotiating legislation, no matter what. Our government, when the government shuts down, because ultimately it's a negotiation tactic when you have the government shutting down. And I looked at models because some European countries, what happens is if they don't pass a budget, like we do here at times too often, if they don't pass a budget, guess what happens? The budget is renewed. So whatever the budget was for the previous year is renewed at the same budget. So in the United States, if we had that policy in place, in 2026, our budget just would have been the same as 2025 until we can amend it. But guess what? The government would not have shut down. Another thing that's in this legislation is there's protection for federal workers. So the 1.4 million federal workers that were furloughed or work without pay will be getting their money. So they're going to be getting all of their back pay. Because a lot of people don't realize this, whenever the government shuts down, it's not a guarantee. So it's nowhere written in stone that the people that were furloughed are going to get back pay. Congress has to vote in order to make sure that they receive their back pay. So they will be getting their back pay, since the government is reopened. Something else that's happening is with with a lot of our TSA workers, the TSA workers that worked, as well as air traffic controllers. Some of them are receiving $10,000 bonuses for working, when they didn't have to work. I heard that now they're evaluating and they're looking to see how many more would be eligible for it. But I saw that some of those workers did receive $10,000 bonuses today. It was on TV. It was on the news this morning. So that's a little bit about it. I'm going to tell you one thing about this bill or this continuing resolution that's going to be detrimental is the fact that the ACA enhanced tax credits are going to be expiring in January. So what does this mean? This means that anybody that has an Affordable Care Act plan or an ACA plan, or if you don't know if you have one or not, if you have a health insurance plan and you go through the health marketplace, what's going to happen is when these credits expire, your monthly premium is going to go up. It can possibly go up by 75%, depending on how much of a credit you were getting. And so let me just kind of break that down to you. And so when we talk about Affordable Care Act plans, the way this works is these plans are not like discounted plans. See, a lot of people think that the insurance companies they love us so much with ACA that they're giving us a cheap plan. Actually, they're not. When you're on an ACA plan, you're just say for me, if I was on ACA plan, my monthly premium may be $350, depending on what plan I get. Well, what the ACA is, it gives a credit. So instead of me paying $300, it may say, well, with the ACA credits, the government is going to pay $250 of your plan. So what would happen is the federal government would cut a check to my insurance company for $250 each month, meaning I only have to pay an additional $50. And so I would pay $50 every month, and the federal government through the ACA would pay the rest of my premium. So with these credits expiring, what's going to happen is where I only had to pay $50 a month, when my credit expires, that $50 may come to $250 a month for me to maintain my health insurance coverage. And so it was told over in the Senate that we're going to reopen the government, and we're going to make a promise that we're going to bring the ACA enhanced credits up for a vote. Now, that's a promise that we're going to bring it up for a vote. So when you're making a promise that you're going to bring it up for a vote, you're not promising that we're going to pass it. You're saying we're going to bring it up for a vote. And so you can say, well, we brought it up for a vote and we voted no on it. So that's what the Senate said. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson, he said that that was never a part of the negotiations in the House. And so, that kind of concerns me, because when we move into January, we're going to have things, the government can possibly shut down again. And if it shuts down, there will be loss of services some places. But as I just said, the legislators are still going to get paid because the legislative branch is getting paid. One good thing about it is SNAP and WIC benefits are not going to be withheld because they've been extended for an entire year. The military construction and veteran affairs is going to receive a full year of funding. But there are so many other agencies that will suffer if the government has to shut down again in January. I didn't say anything about the U.S. Department of USDA, that's Department of Agriculture. So so they will receive funding. So that is in a nutshell what we have going on with the continuing resolution, which has ultimately reopened the government. I've been told that air traffic controllers are coming back to work, and that I think it's a 6% in reduction of flights. Either it's a 6% or a 3%, or if it's 6% currently, it's going to be tapering down to 3% shortly thereafter. But they're projecting that by Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving holiday travel periods, they're projecting that flights will be back full operational and not subjected to the to the grounding of flights from the federal government. All right. So I hope that was not too much for me to unpack. Like I say, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to, just, put it in the comments, and, we will talk about it. All right. So let's move on. Now, Jackson Water, we're going to save that for last. And so if you aren't here to hear about Jackson Water, just hang tight. We're going to leave that for the end. I want to kind of talk about what's going on with that for a lot of people. Next thing, school choice is something that has been a highly contested topic here in Mississippi. We're being told that is going to be one of the key pieces of legislation that we're going to be taking up next session. So I have not seen a school choice bill yet. I don't know, what it is going to, what it's going to look like. Ms. Brenda Aldridge. Okay, so Ms. Aldridge, I'm looking right now. You asked a very good question, and I do not see the federal prisons included in the year-long extension. Military constructions is not in the VA budget. It's not in the USDA budget. So I don't see the federal prisons. I don't see funding for the federal prisons. So that's a good question. We need to probably look at and see what's going to happen with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, with this budget. And now it is possible. This is on the federal level, so I'm not sure, and I need to research this, but there's some things that automatically have to be funded. So some things, no matter what, would be funded. It's my thought process that the federal prisons may fall into that category. Once again, I don't want to definitively say that because I have not researched it, but I would think that the federal prisons are probably funded no matter what, because I know there's several services that are funded. Like there's some jobs that are deemed essential, and with essential jobs, they cannot be not funded. I think this happened under the Obama administration when the government shut down. But Ms. Brenda, I'm going to look into that and give you a definitive answer when I have the facts. But like I said, I don't want to put it out there and then I'm giving incorrect information. But it's possible that it falls into that category. But as I was saying, so school choice is something that's going to be highly contested, talked about a lot. I know that we have a select committee that has been studying school choice, and I have not seen a bill yet. Nobody's seen bills yet, so we don't know what a school choice bill will look like. I'm interested to see. And so Ms. Brenda said they were affected by the shutdown. Okay, so if they were affected by the shutdown, then they're not. The Federal Bureau of Prisons is not exempt. Let me look that up real quick. Y'all, I'm gonna have to look this up and see. Which led to cancellation of visit process. So it said it is affected essential workers to increase work. Okay, so it is absolutely so. It was affected by the shutdown due to staffing shortages, which led to the cancellations of visits. So visitations were suspended, delays in release and administrative process. So Ms. Brenda made a very good point. Thank you for pointing that out. So the Federal Bureau of Prisons will be affected, and I don't see them being funded through this new bill if a new resolution is not voted on in January. And so when we talk about it, the employees of the federal prison are deemed essential, but that means you still have to come to work, but you're still not going to get paid because you're deemed essential. And so what happens is a lot of people can't afford to get to work. So if they can't go to work, you end up with a lot of administrative issues. When we can talk about like people that are supposed to be released from prison are not able to be released because we don't have the administration there to handle it. Also, families are not able to go visit their loved ones that are in prison because they're going to trim the things that they don't really have the money for because they're operating on a schedule crew. And so that is something to take into consideration that will ultimately be affected. Ms. Brenda, thank you for pointing it out and bringing that up. So although we see the things that are funded for a full year, when we look at the things that are not funded, prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons is one of the things that's not funded. And so that's why it's so important that we get these things done. That's why it's important that we get a budget passed and we work hard on it as far as, getting this done. I mean, this is extremely important. At times we think about we look at the things that are right in front of us, the really highly polarizing issues. So we look at SNAP benefits, but we're not thinking about the other things such as the Federal Bureau of Prisons. We're not thinking about things such as Medicaid, which is a federally funded program. We're not thinking about Head Start, which is a federally funded program. We're not thinking about FEMA, which is a federally funded program. We're not thinking about the U.S. Department of Education, which is a federal funded program. When we have federal dollars coming into our public schools and colleges, guess what? Those are federal dollars. And so we're not thinking about those things, and we have to think about everything. With a government shutdown, there's so many things that can and will be affected. Here in the state of Mississippi, 2/3 of our budget comes from federal dollars and from federal funding. So federal dollars are very important. But talked about school choice. That's where we are with school choice. A lot of people have been asking questions about it. And I hate to tell people, I don't know, but as of right now, we really don't know because we don't know what a bill is going to look like. We can speculate what it looks like, but why should we speculate instead of just waiting on it? So we have a few scenarios that we've kind of played with in our minds as to if it looks like this, then this is the stance that, we're going to take on it, or this is how, we're going to work around it. I would like to say that the city of Jackson has passed a resolution saying that they oppose taking public dollars and putting into private schools. The city of Byram has passed a resolution to that effect. Also, the city of Clinton has passed a resolution saying that they oppose public dollars from going into private schools, because we want to really focus on our public schools. When we look at education in Mississippi, we have people from other states calling us saying, what is it that y'all are doing? Because they're seeing the growth in our education system here. And so since we see public education improving, we don't want to mess it up. We need to keep along the trajectory, which is continue to fund public education and not really getting in the weeds. All right, so y'all, we're going to move on, because I'm not going to keep y'all all night. I'm going to be like the pastor. I'm not going to keep you all night. So we're going to move on to Jackson Water. Before we get on Jackson Water, I just kind of want to play a short clip for you, and then we're going to tackle this Jackson Water in just a moment. So hang on for me. Let me get it up here.
Bridge on a federal court hearing involving Jackson Water. They are back in court today to propose a potential rate increase that could impact their water bills. 3 News Side's Teddy Reedy joins us from outside the courthouse with an update.
In the second day of federal court, Jackson Water's Ted Hennepin continued his presentation on why the private utility company needs to increase water rates. If the proposal is passed, your water rates will go up. Hennepin says the reasoning behind the need to increase customer rates is so the private water company can pay their operating costs. Jackson Mayor John Horn was present along with other city officials. Mayor Horn has been outspoken about his stance on the increase. He says he wants transparency from Jackson Water and would like to take a look at their financials first.
Before we can support a rate increase, we'd like to look at Jackson Water's books. These are 100% public dollars. Jackson Water is a private entity, but they're doing their work with 100% federal dollars, which are public.
There was also detailed discussion about Jackson Water customers being inaccurately charged, along with customer service issues at the utility company's call center. After hearing from Jackson Water, city officials, and comments from others in the courtroom, Judge Wingate announced he will make his final decision whether he will grant the increase November 18th. From Jackson, Teddy Reedy, 3 on your side.
Jackson Water is a private entity, but they're doing their work with 100% federal dollars, which are public.
There was also detailed discussion about Jackson Water customers being inaccurately charged, along with customer service issues at the utility company's call center. After hearing from Jackson Water, city.
All right, everybody, I am back. Oh, look, my mom on here tonight. Hey, Mama, y'all see Lee Schaefer? How you doing, Mama? I'm out here trying to give updates. All right, so let's move on to this is the hottest topic in town right now, I would say. Let's move on over and talk about Jackson Water just a little bit. So everybody is aware, of the things that we're dealing with, when it comes down to Jackson Water. In a nutshell, we had a failing water system here in the city of Jackson. It made national news. Ultimately, federal government came in and established a private entity to come in and oversee the water system, the revamping or revitalization, repair, whatever you want to call it, of the water system. This has been going on since December 2022-ish, sometime I want to say. And so, I just want to be, and I'll take this down now, want to be, transparent in everything that I say. And I've said this once before, and I'll say it again. With Jackson Water, I feel that, coming in, Jackson Water came in when we were at our absolute lowest and made some significant changes and some significant investments into water infrastructure with the federal dollars that they had. We're very, very grateful for that. I don't want to take away from the efforts and the work that they have done, in the past, and the work that they're doing right now. However, and I've said this once and I've said before, I feel that the ball has been dropped when it comes to customer service and with dealing with and communicating with the citizens and the ratepayers that are on the Jackson Water system. And so where we are right now is Jackson Water has ultimately run out of money, which in the beginning we knew that the $600 million was not going to be enough. We knew that that was just going to be a drop in the bucket to restore the system and fix the system. So Jackson Water has run out of money. And right now, the third-party manager, Mr. Ted Hennepin, is asking for a rate increase. So he wants to increase the rate and I want to say he wants to increase the rate by, I think, 25% to all Jackson Water customers. And yesterday, there was a hearing in federal court in Judge Henry Wingate's courtroom at the U.S. federal court here in Jackson, and it was ultimately a status hearing, just to I'm sorry, y'all, I got text messages and stuff coming through. I'm trying to do more than one thing, but it was a status hearing and when you have a federal case, you typically have status hearings just to kind of figure out and see what's going on. But this hearing was because Judge Wingate ruled previously that Jackson Water cannot raise rates. So Judge Wingate said no to the rate increase. However, Mr. Hennepin said that it's impossible for him to operate the system without a rate increase. So he was given notice that he was still going to, increase the water rate to, I guess, maintain the system or whatever have you. So all in a nutshell, there was a status update hearing on yesterday, and 9 o'clock yesterday morning, I attended the hearing, whereas a lot of other people from Jackson attended. A lot of people that were that been affected by it, just to kind of go in and give some insight as to what's going on. And my reason for attending is, and this is the first federal court hearing that I've been to on Jackson Water. But my reason was attending is because I want to be a voice for my constituents that are being affected by issues within the Jackson water system, as I have been very vocal here lately about, because I have constituents that have 10,000, 30,000, and one constituent with a $70,000 water bill. Now, what I do want to say is my constituent with the $70,000 water bill, it appears that issue has been resolved and they're working on getting her credited on it. My constituent with the $30,000 water bill, well, actually, it's $33,000 and something dollars because they just sent her another bill, but her water is back on, and they're supposed to be working on getting their account credited. Y'all, I'm getting distracted over here, but they're supposed to be working on it. So I want to give credit, for that they are attempting to work on it. But I really went to court because I wanted to hear what was going on, because when you hear things, from the media, from other people, you're going to have about 1 minute or 2 minutes with a whole mountain of information to hear and decipher. So going to court, you can actually hear what's going on. And so I want to tell y'all some of the things that came out in court yesterday, that I heard. So currently there are, let me get my notes here. And y'all, this is all a part of the court record. I took good notes, so this is not something I'm making up. This ain't something I heard from the street committee. This is it is some. I hope y'all can still hear me. I hit a button over here. I think I got so much junk on my desk. All right, so per Jackson Water, there are 10 to 12,000 accounts of just basically 10 to 12,000 people with accounts that are not paying. There are also 4 to 6,000 people that have no account. So that means we have 4 to 6,000 people on Jackson Water that don't have. What's going on, cousin? No, they say, hey, we can hear you. All right, there we go. Brenda, Ms. Bowman, you gonna leave me alone with them glasses? So I told you my brother said about these glasses. But yeah, I gotta get them on, gotta get my eyes on. I'm looking at numbers so I can see. So we got 10 to 12,000 people with accounts that are not paying. All right. So I want to address that first. Y'all, I don't want to take y'all too fast. So what this says is there are 10 to 12,000 people that have accounts and they're not paying. And that sounds good for a sound bite, right? So, on the outside looking in, before I really started talking to constituents and realizing, and kind of dissecting the problem, I said, okay, we have a lot of people, that's not paying their bills. And why are people not paying their bills? However, what I realized is when my constituents started reaching out to me, the reason we have a lot of people that aren't paying bills, and now this is not the whole 10 to 12,000 people. So some people probably are not paying their bills. But what I learned and I found out is The reason a lot of people aren't paying bills is because they have extremely high bills that they just can't pay. You know, when we talk about, and y'all have seen the reports on the news, we have people that have $5, $6, $7, $8,000 bills, and they're saying, "I'm being overcharged. Is something wrong?" What's going on, Amy Mard? How you doing? That's my buddy over there, y'all. Amy, I hope you're doing well. So it's not fair to say that if a person has an outstanding bill or a really, really high bill that they can't afford to pay, how are they supposed to pay it? And they're saying that, hey, it's an error with my bill. It's possibly a problem with my meter. Because what we also discovered is Jackson Water doesn't have a dispute process. So if you get a bill and you don't agree with the bill and you call in and say, hey, I don't agree with my bill, guess what? Your water is still going to get turned off. And so it's not really a process to figure out, how do we figure out if this is an erroneous bill? And don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm not taking up and saying that all of these accounts are like this, but I've seen several accounts. Like I said, when I look through here, this is a $28,000 water bill. How do you use $28,000 worth of water? This is a $1,826 water bill here. This is a $12,183 water bill. This is a churches in my district that say they have bills ranging for $500 to $800 a month for a church that, you know, you only use. I mean, you're not in a church every single day, unless the kids at Vacation Bible School, I guess, and they're playing flushing the toilet all day or something. I don't get it. This is another one with, $1,500. And so this is my thing. If there is a water leak, and so some of these people have been told, well, you know what, you have a water leak and you've had this water leak at your water, and they've sent graphs because they have high-tech meters. What the way Jackson water meters work is every hour on an hour, it records your usage. So how are you allowing people to have water leaks for, and I'm going to say Jackson Water took over in 2022, new meters went out. I'm just going to give grace and say by at least May of 2024. That's what I'm going to put out there. So I'm going to say, so we say May 2024, everybody had a new meter, one of these new meters from Jackson Water. And so you have that new meter that's supposed to be high tech, recording usage every hour. You as a utility company, if you see a person with a high bill, why you're allowing that bill to get to be that high? Why are you allowing a person to accumulate a $70,000 water bill? Because I'm going to tell you, when it comes to energy is not going to let you run up your light bill to $70,000 unless you can do it in 1 month or 2 months, before your lights get cut off. So if there's a water leak, because a lot of times water leaks are underground, you can't see them, right? The way the water companies detect water leaks is when they look at your meter and they see extremely high usage from the prior month. So as a utility company, when you're seeing that there's a problem, you should be turning that water off and notifying the customer that you have a leak and you need to get it fixed. Not waiting and letting it accumulate and get to astronomical prices like you did with the Jackson Zoo, and they have a $6.9 million water bill because one of the exhibits, the pond from the exhibit, was leaking down to the ground. We're going to get on that in just a minute. But as a utility company, why are you allowing these bills to get to be this high where people can't afford them? And then you're saying they're not paying their bill. Okay. If my bill was $70,000 right now, I don't have $70,000 to pay a bill. If my bill was $30,000, I don't have $30,000 to pay a bill. If my bill was $2,000, I don't have $2,000 to pay on the water bill right now. And so with some of these accounts that we're talking about, the 10 to 12,000, the accounts that are not paying, I really want to know, what are the balances on these accounts? What's going on with these accounts? Now we're going to move on. So there are 4,000 to 6,000 people currently on Jackson Water System that do not have an account. So that means it's 4,000 to 6,000 people. They're getting water each and every month, and there's no record of an account with Jackson Water. So this is my question. And like I said, I'm not I'm not an expert. I don't work for the water company. I don't claim to be an expert in this area. If you know that there are 4,000 to 6,000 people that don't have accounts, number one, since you know it's 4,000 to 6,000, you can identify that number. Then why can't you pinpoint where these people are located? So let's say, so I know it's I just know it's 4,585 people that don't have an account. Well, if you know that, why have you not pinpointed them? So I think Mr. Hennepin said in court yesterday that they used, I think, like public records or maybe records from Energy or the gas company or whatever to kind of determine this. So I'm going to go back a little bit further. I'm going to go back 20 years. Not even 20 years. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go north to my hometown of Yazoo City, Mississippi. And I hope my mama is still on here. So this is what happens. Yazoo City, they have their own municipal water system, Public Works of Yazoo City. Well, guess what? They have a man that goes out, the meter man. So the meter man each month has to go by and read everybody's meter each month. So although we have these new high-tech meters, if we can't pinpoint the 4,000 to 6,000 people, why have we not gotten a task force to say what we're going to do on this task force is we're going to go and we're going to walk every single street and we're going to flag the houses that don't have a water account. So we're going to send a task force out there. They can be just like the people that come and do the census. And they can say, hey, we're going to go, okay, you have an account, you have an account, you don't have one, you don't have one, to pinpoint people that don't have accounts. Since we know that there are 4,000 to 6,000 people. And y'all, I'm going somewhere with this. This is where I'm going. To me, when it comes, I know that everything costs money. When we talk about inflation, cost of things go up. I understand that Jackson Water doesn't have money. I understand that, hey, they're asking for a rate increase. I understand that they probably need a rate increase. But how insulting is it for you to tell the people that have a water account that's paying their bill monthly, how insulting is it for you to tell them that I'm going to go up on your rate when I know that we have 4,000 to 6,000 people that don't have an account that are not paying? When we tell them that we have 10,000 to 12,000 people that have accounts that are not paying. How insulting is that? Judge Wingate did the math on the 4,000 to 6,000 people averaging $80 a month. This is $1.4 million a month more that Jackson Water will have. Annualized, that's $17 million a year that Jackson Water will have. Now, that is just, once again, that's a drop in the bucket when you talk about running a water system. But when you talk about a failing water, not a failing water, I'm not going to say that. But when you talk about a water system that needs money, every dollar counts. We need everything on the table. Because if we have these issues resolved, then when you come and say, I want a rate increase, we can say, you know what? I can confidently tell my constituents, y'all, I hate that we're going to have to raise the rate of water. However, that's what we're going to have to do. Everybody has an account. They're supposed to have one. Collections are where they need to be with the national standard. Y'all, I'm sorry, but this is what we're going to have to do. But I'm not going to tell my constituents that we're going to raise your water bill when we have people that don't even have accounts on file. That's just not right any type of way that you try to look at it. I have another thing here. And like I say, this is not an attack, because Mr. Hennepin, he thinks that I'm attacking I'm attacking Jackson Water and I'm saying bad things about him. No, I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm speaking up for the people I represent, because at the end of the day, that's all I care about. I only care about the people I represent and make sure that they're getting treated fairly. Let's just talk about Jackson Water's collections. And this was a very colorful PowerPoint that we had in federal court yesterday. When we look at October, so let's just say October to December 2023, Jackson Water collected they averaged, the monthly average was about $3,800 a month. Well, in 2024, the monthly average was $5.5 million. The year-to-date average right now is $6.5 million in 2025. So once again, Jackson Water, I think you're doing a phenomenal job because you've doubled, the collection rates. That's what you're able to collect from customers and what you're receiving. So we have collection rate that went from 53.6% up to 61.5%. So I think that like I said, I want to give credit where credit is due because it's not all bad things. But as I said in federal court yesterday, because and I want to thank Judge Wingate for giving me the opportunity to approach and give public comment. But as I said, I feel that people have gotten lost in the mix. I feel that profits have been put above people because at the end of the day, and Mr. Hennepin, you can take this however you want to take it. I really do not care. I find it insulting that when the media approach you and ask you about, customers that were experiencing problems, and you said you have a representative that's talking about two people and you laughed about it, they have water issues. And if you look at that story, there was a lady on this story that spoke about how she has to choose if she's going to buy her medicine or pay her water bill. There was another man that was on there before her that was talking about how his water's been cut off several times and he's on a fixed income. There's absolutely nothing funny about that. I don't care if it was one person saying that I don't have water running to my dog house and my dog is not getting water. That's not a laughing matter. And Mr. Hennepin, I don't know if you maybe you don't know I realized it or not, but I heard you chuckling while I was up talking when I approached on the podium to speak to Judge Wingate. I heard you laughing when I was saying the things that I was saying. So, Mr. Wingate, I'm not Mr. Wingate, Mr. Hennepin. It's absolutely nothing funny about people not having water. This is a serious issue, that we're talking about. All right, y'all, moving forward. So, for the residents that live in the city of Jackson, when you pay your water bill, you have three charges on your water bill. You have water, and that's when they bring the water to your house. You have sewer, I think maybe wastewater. Wastewater means that's sewer. So whenever you flush the toilet, that's your wastewater. So you pay for the water to come in your house, and of course you pay when it's flushed, and that's normal. There's nothing wrong with it. That's how it's supposed to be. Basically, sewer is calculated based upon so if you use 30 gallons of water, the calculation that said, we know that water has to go somewhere, so we're going to just charge you for 30 gallons going in the sewer. But you also have another fee on there, which is your sanitation fee, which ultimately is for garbage pickup. And so, as you know, in the city of Jackson, we have Richard's Disposal, which is responsible for collecting our garbage. So when you pay your water bill, guess what? Every dollar that you pay goes to Jackson Water. Well, Jackson Water, in turn, has to cut a check to the city of Jackson to give them the garbage collection fee back. So what happened is, and I'm going to tell you, going to court, you find out a lot of stuff. So we are, y'all, my eyes getting bad here. So I'm going to look back at this because, like I say, and I know Mr. Hennepin, he's going to watch this. So I want to make sure I have all the facts right, Mr. Hennepin, for you because I don't want to give any incorrect information. And Mr. Hennepin, if I give any incorrect information, let me know because I want to correct it because I want to be given factual information. All right, so right here, this is the status of the sanitation account. As you see, this is from Jackson Water. So from January 2025, no, I'm wrong. So from April of 2025 up until September of 2025, there is, y'all hold on a second. Y'all give me a second. I'm going to do this math right because I want to make sure I got these numbers right because I think they made a mistake on the math. Y'all just, we're going to go to commercials for a moment. 111.8250. That's 49.2. 749. I'm sorry about this, y'all. I didn't realize that this was 741. Okay. All right. So I want to check my math and make sure it's right because I don't want to give wrong numbers. All right. So from April up until September of 2025, Jackson Water has received $6,358,000, 37 cents and 63 cents in sanitation fees, which, as I say, this is all collected with the water bill. And so what happens is Jackson Water cuts a check to the city of Jackson. Now, in January, February, and March, the city of Jackson received about $3.1 million. So they paid those 3 months. However, this $6.3 million I'm talking about was never given to the city of Jackson. The reason it was not given to the city of Jackson, because, and in the notes here it says, as of October 3rd, the city owes Jackson Water $6.9 million for the zoo account, which is a balance that's been accrued since December 2022. So this is where I go with this. So what Jackson Water is saying is basically the city of Jackson has a $6.9 million bill, so they're not going to release the money until they get their balances. So they're going to withhold the sanitation fees, which is what the taxpayers are paying. You, being a taxpayer, you're paying for your garbage pickup and your water bill. And so that has nothing to do with your Jackson Water services. So Jackson Water is saying that we're not going to release that money because the city of Jackson owes us this money. I'm not disputing any of that. But what I want to know is what authority gives Jackson Water to withhold anybody's money? Where's the court order? Has Judge Wingate never ordered the city Jackson Water to withhold money from the city of Jackson for sanitation fees? That's equal to a business holding a customer's money in. That's just like an attorney. So it's like an attorney holding your money in a trust account, and you have a bill, you owe that attorney money. That attorney cannot take that money out of your trust account and say, oh, well, you got to pay that bill to me without going through the courts to get approval on it. So basically, it came out in court, and Judge Wingate asked Mr. Hennepin, okay, he said, okay, Mr. Hennepin, can you tell us about the $6.3 million? Do you have it in an account somewhere? And Mr. Hennepin basically said, no, we needed operation costs, and so we spent the money. Had Jackson paid their water bill, then, we would have had it. But since they didn't, we spent the money. So basically, the taxpayers' dollars that was going towards the sanitation, which Jackson Water took, they took it and spent it, and to keep Jackson Water afloat. Also, moving forward again, the city of Jackson paid $5.1 million towards the bond debt for a bond that went into the Jackson water system. And so, I'm trying to really understand, where did the authority come from to do these things? You just can't take it upon yourself, to get this done. Another question I had was, in court was, Jackson Water spoke about how when you have a water leak, that if you come in, they'll come in, and once you fix the water leak, you'll get, they'll get your account credited and all of that. And my question was, since Jackson has this water leak at the zoo fixed, or they're getting it fixed, I want to know, when they get it fixed, are they going to afford the same grace to the city of Jackson and say, well, we're going to credit you back the $6.9 million? Are you going to make any exceptions? Because you say you do it for residential customers. Miss Pauline Rogers, y'all, this is my lady here. She says the water situation in Jackson is crazy. Majority of citizens in Jackson, this water situation is, the majority of citizens are paying for the corruption that has gone on for decades. Our water was cut off. It was an act of Congress to get it on. When we did, we were told they had not got a bill from this address in over 40 years. People in power and positions have lived on the citizens of Jackson for decades, and the people living here are now paying. Ms. Pauline Rogers, thank you so much for saying what you said. That is the absolute truth. And we have people that don't want to speak up about the things that are going on. And you know, with me, like I said, when I see my citizens suffering, you know, that's too much for me. How can the credit corrupt water? How can the credit corrupt water connections? How can it, Ms. Pauline, can you send it back? I'm not understanding. How can the credit corrupt water connections? And so when I see, you know, when I see things like that, because when you look at you like something's not right, I must be crazy in the way that I'm looking at this, you know, but it's not. You know, when you have people that are literally calling and begging Jackson Water, please turn my water back on, and you're ignoring them, as this one lady, and I'm not going to call people's names, but this one young lady whose water has been off, she's been fighting since July 2025 to try to have her water restored. And she's working. And when you know that, you know you're coming into a water system that has been systemically failing, and you know that there are issues with this water system, and you have people on this water system that are actually trying. It's different if you say, okay, I'm just using water and I want my water on, and I'm not going to call, I'm not going to pay, I don't care about it. But when you have people saying, look, I have been suffering for all of these years, I want to pay my bill, I want to work it out, and you tell them, nope, there's nothing I can do, it's nothing we can do, you're still in water, you're doing this, you're doing that. That's not the way you handle things. I mean, that's just, I'm just, you have to be willing to try to help people when you can, when you know that people are in the position and the predicament that they're in right now through no fault of their own. Because there's no way in the world that you're going to tell me that this many people are having this many problems. There's no way that you're going to tell me that this many people have this many water leaks in their yard. It's no way possible. And when you have people that you're turning off and that you're doing these things too, guess what? Your water collections are going to be down, because if they don't have water, they can't pay a water bill. So you're losing money because people water is off, because you don't want to work with them. You want to go out and put a lock on their meter. Now, if you go out and you see a person that's tampering with water or stealing water with an illegal connection, absolutely turn it off, lock it, do whatever it is you need to do to that person, because they should not be doing that. But when you have people out here that have fallen victim to a corrupt system, you don't turn them off and hold them hostage and demand outrageous amounts of dollars from them. One second. You don't demand outrageous dollars from them when they are suffering. People are suffering from the things that are going on. And like I say, and it's so much to unpack, so many things that happened in court. I just kind of broke the tip of the iceberg. But when we look at these things, and just, you know, a non-caring, it's just really an attitude of, I mean, I really don't care. For so long, people could not, in the city of Jackson, had no office that they can walk into and question their water bill. Even right now, you can't, because you got to make an appointment to go. It was ordered that Jackson Water had to open an office up, and people can go in person, but you still have to make an appointment to go into that office. Right now, you cannot dispute your water bill. There's not a process for disputing a water bill. You know, it's no formal process other than saying, hey, my water bill is too high, but there's not a policy in place. So in closing, I want to leave y'all with something. If I can find it. Here we go. I got to find this. These are some things that the citizens are asking for from Jackson Water. Y'all, I'm embarrassed at how junky my desk is. So these are some things right here, and I don't think that these things are are over the top. But I think that these things make sense. So the interveners, which are our citizens that are getting involved. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna get them. Let me answer Ms. Rogers' question. How can they credit you for faulty connections? We were told our water line had connections to the city, which in the previous owner lived decades without paying the bill. We have 2 bills, almost $6,000. The other $3,000 due by November 25th. Where is this kind of money coming from? That's it, Ms. Rogers. Ms. Rogers, let me work with you on that. I'm going to give you a call about that. But see, this is another incident of things that are going on. And Ms. Rogers has a nonprofit where she's helping people in the city. And look at what we have going on, with her. People for 40 years didn't have a water bill. And here we go, 6,000 and 3,000, 9,000 due by November 25th. That doesn't make any sense. But these are the things that the interveners are asking for. The interveners are asking they're asking that a 60-day notice be provided before water is shut off. They're asking that to include all the information on all bills and shut off notice about the availability of SNAP rates when they apply. They also want to know, how is Jackson Water prioritizing accounts for shutoff? They want to know how many shutoffs occurred in October 2025. And when it comes to shutoffs, they're asking for more data. Multifamily buildings, how many residential accounts that serve a single housing unit, and non-residence accounts. They want to know, does Jackson Water have a formal policy on providing advance notice for shutoffs? They want to know, what methods does Jackson Water provide notices? They want to see a copy of the forms used for any written shutoff notices. They want to know, does Jackson Water always provide a minimum number of days of advanced shutoffs? They also want to know, does Jackson Water require what does Jackson Water require customer to do in order to avoid shutoff after receiving a notice? When it comes to billing disputes, they want to know, is there a formal process for resolving billing disputes? They want to know, what instructions are customer service representatives given for how to handle disputed bills? So in light of the long history of extensive billing and metering problems, what steps does Jackson Water take to confirm the accuracy of a bill when a customer claims that the bill is incorrect? That hits very hard for me right there. What does Jackson Water do if a customer is disputing, what does a customer do to prove that they don't have a leak? The reason this hit hard is because I have a constituent that this happened to her. They told her that she had a leak. She had a $30,000 bill. Credit debit card. I'm trying to use my credit card. Let me know. I didn't authorize a charge. Okay, so she had a $30,000 bill. She told them that I don't know what is going on with this. Anyway, she told them that she didn't have. She told them that she called about her bill, and they told her she had a leak. So she said, I don't have a leak. And so she said she didn't have a leak. She had a plumber come out and look around her property. The plumber said it wasn't a leak there. Well, she called Jackson Water and they told her, well, we need to send our plumbers out, to make sure it's not a leak. And so what she did before their plumbers came out, she had plumbers come out and tie her into her mother's property, her mother's water meter, because they're neighbors. And she took pictures every hour on the hour showing the water usage with her house connected. And the meter never spiked. We sent the pictures to Jackson Water. They said, well, we still need the plumbers to come out. So they sent their contractor Ford Plumbing out. Ford Plumbing went out and said, well, it's no leak. Told Jackson Water. They say, well, the meter has a lock on it that Ford didn't have a key to take off, so they got to go back out. Now, Ford is your contractor. So I asked her, you mean to tell me that y'all knew that Ford Plumbing was going out, which is your contractor, and y'all didn't make sure that the lock was removed, number one. Number two, y'all didn't make sure that Ford had a key to remove the lock. They didn't even respond. So Ford had to go back out again once the lock was removed. They went out again. Guess what Ford said? It's no leak. We can't find a leak anywhere. told it to Jackson Water. What did they say? Oh, well, we're going to come out and put another meter down. No explanation. Well, the meter was faulty, possibly. This was going on, that was going on. I reached out to him, and Ms. Henfin told me, well, it was a leak somewhere, so she must have fixed it. I can't figure out how she fixed it or what she did in the middle of all of that, but it was a leak, and then something happened. And so when we talk about what's the process that you go to determine if it's a leak or not, this customer had no reason to have to do all of this to prove that there was no leak and then still be told that it is a leak. And her bill still hasn't been credited. We're still waiting on it to be credited. And so, y'all, I'm not going to keep y'all much any longer tonight. I just want to touch bases on those few important issues. There will be other things that will be coming up as we unravel the mystery with Jackson Water. In a nutshell, Judge Wingate did not rule on an increase. He did not approve a water increase. He basically said that he's going to review all of the evidence, and he's going to be coming back, I think, within 10 days to let everybody know what his ruling is and how he's going to rule on an increase, a rate increase, or if he's going to say that they can increase or they can't increase it. And so, with all of the facts provided, it's in Judge Wingate's hands. When it comes down to Jackson Water, hey, I'm going to work with Jackson Water in any way that I possibly can to do whatever it is that we need to do to make sure that we are taking care of our people and our people have safe, clean, and sustainable drinking water. All right. Y'all have a great evening. Y'all have a great weekend. And as always, if you need anything, y'all know how to find me. Y'all take care and stay warm. Well, stay cool, because it's going to be in the 80s this weekend. So y'all turn the heat off and turn the air back on for a few days.